Assalamualaikum and good evening, everyone. We meet again in the JOM SKOR A English webinar. Tonight, our focus is on IGCSE summary, the ABCs. Before I introduce our speaker for today, here are some important reminders for everyone. First, if you have any questions, please type them in the chat box. Our moderators will reply to you in due time. Second, when commenting, please use your real name as well as your MRSM or your school name instead of anonymous. Third, link to the feedback form will be shared in the chat box at the end of the session, so please help us by filling that in later. And finally, the most important of all, do participate actively, be responsive, and have fun. All right, everyone. Joining us today is Mr. Daniel AZERE bin AZEMI, who has been teaching the IGCSE syllabus for almost 9 years. After graduating from University Islam Antarabangsa Malaysia, he began his teaching career in MRSM KUANTAN from 2013 until now. He enjoys reading comic books, especially from Japanese and Malaysian artists. He is passionate in teaching and loves motivating his students, especially in finding ways to make them have a good time learning English. Mr. Daniel believes that we must take time to enjoy the little things in life because time flies. All right, we can't wait to have Mr. Daniel sharing with us some amazing writing strategies on the topic of summary. So, without further ado, over to you, Mr. Daniel.
Okay, thank you very much, Miss Haja, for the warm welcome. Hello, everybody. Right, I am Mr. Daniel, and today, welcome to JOM SKOR A English webinar. As my focus for today will be on the Form 4 IGCSE summary, the ABCs. Right. So, if you would like to test out the chat box right now, okay, you can send me some warm greetings as well. Let me know that you are ready and pumped up to learn, okay, and revise on the topic for today. Right. Before we begin with the main content of my presentation, there are a few things that I would like to remind you, okay, through my housekeeping slides. Okay, number one, please make sure that the audio and visual is clear. Make sure that you can see my face, okay, you can see the slides and you can hear my voice presenting the information on the slide. Number two, it is always good to have a notebook and pen ready on your side to scribble some notes and drafts. I'm sure that whatever that I am teaching today, especially to the Form 4 students in MRSM taking the IGCSE exam this year, you have been exposed to this particular topic. So let's take this as a moment for you to revise, okay? And as well as those of you who have never heard about this topic before, maybe this is an opportunity for you to learn something new, okay, to learn a particular skill that you can apply, whenever that you need to use the summary skills. Right. Thirdly, okay, if you have any questions at any moment, whenever I'm presenting my slides, okay, please ask the questions as mentioned by Ms. Haja just now. Just put your comments or your questions in the comments chat box, okay, and then the moderator will let me know if the question got through. Okay, right. One last thing, please be reminded that we are only using the chat box in our Teams apps. So there is no need for you to, have another device ready to open any other apps as we are doing the activities throughout my presentation. Okay, all clear? Right, so let us begin with the topic for today. Before we get into the technical things about writing a summary, there are a few questions that I would like to ask you, okay, in relation to IGCSE summary writing. Right, my first question to you is, okay, which section is the summary in paper 2, right? So now is the time for you to use the chat box and try to respond to my question. Okay, the question is, which section is the summary in paper 2? Okay, so So you can type your, I'll give you about 30 seconds to put down your response in the chat box. Okay, right. So in IGCSE, paper 2 is paper reading and writing. So the summary section is in that particular paper. So which section is it? Okay, right. So let's wait for some responses.
Yes. Yeah, let's wait for some responses. I will be reading I will be reading it out to you, Mr. Daniel.
Okay,
That's
right.
an interesting warm-up as well. We're still waiting. I believe the students are typing as we speak.
Okay, right. So if you're using your smartphone, okay, or any sort of device, okay, the chat box is on the usually it's on the top right corner that you can open up, and then you just put in your comments, and then hopefully there's your comment or response will pop up. Okay, right. Okay. Right. If there are no response, never mind. Okay, because we have some we need to catch up with time. Okay, so which section is the summary in paper 2? Right. So in paper 2, the summary falls in exercise number 4 or section number 4. In the IGCSE exam, the sections are called as exercises. Okay, so it is the fourth part in the paper. Right. My second question for everyone is, what is the maximum number of words for IGCSE summary? Okay, what is the maximum number of words for IGCSE summary? So please, if you on your device, have your device with you, please type in responses inside the chat box. I'll give you about 30 seconds before we move on. Okay, right. Why am I asking this particular question? Okay, in writing a summary, okay, you need to have a certain set number of words, okay, because it is not a long essay that you have to write as a response. So there is a limit to the number of words. So you need to know what is the maximum number of words that you can write in your summary. Okay. Right, let's give it a few more seconds.
All right. Mr. Daniel, Ashwina from Kupa, I think it's Kubang Pasu. She says it's 120 words. What about that, Mr. Daniel?
Okay, right. Thank you, Ashwina from MRSM Kubang Pasu. Right, so the maximum number of words is 120. You are absolutely correct. Okay, so when writing your summary, you cannot exceed this particular number of words. Okay, right. My third question for you is, how many paragraphs should you have in your summary? Okay, how many paragraphs should you have in your summary? Okay, so another 30 seconds for you to respond in the chat box, just to warm up the chat box, just so that you are used to using the chat box to give a response to me. Okay, right. So when we're talking about paragraphs, whenever you're writing something, usually you are supposed to write it in paragraphs so that it is organized, right? Especially when you're writing your essays. But what about summary? Okay, is there a particular number of paragraph that you should have? Okay, and how are you? Yes. Okay.
Mr. Daniel, we are still receiving answers from the from the second warm up just now. One person says 150, and the other one says about 100 to 120 words.
Right. So based on my answer just now, so 150 is a little bit too much. Okay, it's not the maximum number of words for a summary. I think 150 word, that particular number appears in our essay section, which is the minimum number of words that you should write for your essay. Okay, for exercise 5 and 6. But for summary, exercise 4, the maximum number is 120. Okay, right. Please remember that.
All right. We are still waiting for responses for warm-up question number 3.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, right. So let's just move on while waiting for. Never mind if the response comes up a little bit late, I will address to it as well. So no problem. So the number of paragraph that you should have in your summary. Okay, generally a summary should only have one paragraph. Okay, because you are only answering to a particular question that is being asked. For example, if it's just it asks for a particular information, so only that one information you write in just one paragraph. Okay, but based on the type of summary, which I will touch later, sometimes you might have to write 2 paragraphs for your summary. Okay, right, let's move on.
Mr. Daniel, before we move
Yes.
on, we have again Ashwina who says the answer is, I think about the paragraphs, maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs.
Right. Okay. You are correct. Okay, Ashwina. Around 1 or 2 paragraph, depending on the type of summary that you're supposed to write. Okay, so later on, I will discuss in detail, okay, about these 2 different types of summary and how are we going to approach to answer this type of questions. Okay, right. Thank you again. Right. Next, let's move on to my next question. Okay, what is the total marks for a summary question? What is the total marks for a summary question? Okay, so again, another, around 1 minute for you to type it up in the chat box. Okay, it is always important for you to know how many marks are you going to get for a section so that you can plan. Okay, you can plan and know what are the things that you need to look out for, what are the answers that you need to come up with, okay, in order for you to get the maximum number of marks possible. Okay, because again, in order to get an A star, you need to get, okay, a high number of marks for each section so that the overall mark for your exam can be good, which is an A star. Okay,
Okay, Mr. Daniel, we have a
right.
few responses here.
Mm-hmm.
Ashwina again from Kubang Pasu, she is saying 16, and Raghunathan from MRSM KKB, he also says 16 marks, Mr. Daniel. Is that
Okay.
right?
Yes. Okay. So thank you, Ashwina and Raghunathan. Okay. So correct. The number of the total marks for this particular section is 16. Okay. So later on, we will take a look at, what covers, okay, these 16 marks in total. Okay. Right. Let's take a look at my last question for you. Okay, which is a little bit open-ended. What do you think is the most challenging aspect of summary writing, right? What is the most challenging aspect of summary writing in your personal opinion, right? So another minute for you to respond in the chat box. Okay, right. It is very important for you to know what is difficult in a particular paper so that you can address to that particular issue. Okay, find ways to become better in that particular problem, and then inshallah after that you can score well in your in that particular section. So what do you think is the most challenging when you are writing your summary
We
exercise
have a
form?
response here.
Mm-hmm.
Ashwina says she thinks paraphrasing the points would be the most challenging for her.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Right. So thank you, Ashwina. Is there any other responses?
Yes, Adlina Marisa from MRSM Kuantan, finding the right keywords for two-part summary would be the most challenging. And Auni from MRSM Kuantan agrees with Ashwina in saying that paraphrasing the points would be the most
Okay.
challenging.
Right. So thank you for the responses, Ashwina, Adlina, and Auni. Uh, So I have to agree, okay, with your responses, which is paraphrasing, okay, is one of the challenging parts in a summary, okay, where paraphrasing is an important aspect that will help you to boost your language marks in your summary. Okay, and finding the right keywords is also a bit challenging, especially when you don't understand, okay, certain words, or you don't understand what the particular topic is being discussed in the text given in the summary. Okay, thank you very much for that. Okay, so I think we're done with the warm up. Okay, hopefully that you are already familiar with how to use the chat box. Okay, with how I'm expecting responses from you guys. Okay, and I understand that might be a little bit of a delay, so no problem. Whatever response that you have, you just write it up. Okay, and then if I miss it, the moderator will always help me to identify your particular comment or question. So don't worry, just throw any question at any moment if you have one. Okay, right. So for my opening slide for our topic for today, okay, is a bit of info, okay, whether you know that there are two different types of summary question. Okay, right, there are two different types of summary question. Number one, okay, we have a one-part question, and number two, we have a two-part question. So what does it mean by these two different types of summary question? In the next slides, we're going to take a look in detail. But generally, a one-part question means that the summary is asking for you to look for only one main idea, okay, in as your content point. Whereas as a two-part summary question, the question will ask you to look for two different main ideas as your content point. Okay, so those are that is the general difference between a one-part question and a two-part question. So for the bigger part of my presentation today, we'll focus on the techniques on how to write a summary from start to finish, on how to write a summary question, focusing on a one-part question. Towards the end of my slide, I will focus on the two-part question, okay, the techniques, the differences that you need to be aware of when you want to focus on the two-part question. Okay, right, let's move on to the next slide. Here are some specific terms that I will be using throughout my presentation. Okay, these terms are going to be repeated, okay, by me, and I hope that through this slide, okay, you will know what I'm trying to say. Okay, so let's take a look at some terms that I'm going to generally use again and again throughout my presentation tonight. So the first term is the word main idea. So when I say the phrase main idea, I am referring to what the question is asking. Okay, what is the question? Okay, and the main idea usually appears in the question section of the summary part. Right. The second term that I want you to highlight is content points. So when I say the word content points, I am referring to the key points. Okay, the key points or the answers in the text that answers the question, that answers the main idea. So that is what content points are. Right? It is the answer. Okay, in the text, answering to the main idea. Right. The third term is topic sentence. Okay, this is, I think, is something that you should have learned, okay, in your classes, but maybe some of you might have forgotten, okay, what it actually is. So a topic sentence is basically a sentence that uses the words from the main idea, meaning how you're going to start your particular, in this case, your summary. How you're going to start your summary, you're going to use the topic sentence. Okay, meaning you're using the words from the main idea, from the question, and construct a sentence to create a meaning to begin your summary. Okay, right. The next term that I will be using again in my slides will be paraphrasing. So paraphrasing here, I think some of you already mentioned that word in your responses just now. So paraphrasing is a skill, okay, of using your own words, meaning, right, you change a particular sentence into a different structure, or you change the words and it has a different way of presenting itself compared to the original sentence. Okay, so you're using your own words, but you're not changing the meaning. Okay, you're just using your own words to express the same meaning. Right. My last term is cohesion. Right. So cohesion here, okay, I think I'm going to mention it at least once or twice in my presentation. So what is cohesion? Okay. Cohesion means that you have good connections between your words and sentences to achieve a good flow of ideas. So when you're writing your summary, if it has good cohesion, okay, meaning that the flow of the idea inside your summary is good, your examiner will be able to read it more clearly and understand it better, and will definitely provide you with a higher marks in the language. Okay. Right. So I hope that in regards to the terms here, you are quite clear. Okay. But if you are still confused, you can always, ask again for more clarification in the chat box. Right. Let's go into the overview of the summary question. So the main objective of the summary question is for you to write a one paragraph summary based on what the question wants. Technically, it's usually always one paragraph. But again, as I mentioned before, if you're writing a two-part summary, you can write it more than one paragraph. Okay, so that is the main objective. Okay, right. The second thing is the total number of words. Okay, we have discussed this just now in our warm-up. So the maximum number of words is 120. Okay, but in the question, they will give you like a general number of words that you should write, okay, in your summary. Okay, the average number of words is around 100 words, but the maximum you cannot exceed is 120 words. Right. The total marks just now is 16, correct? So what does this comprise of? Okay, uh, it is 8 marks for content and 8 marks for language. Okay, so 8 marks for content means the content points just now that you find in the text. Okay, meaning if you have 8 marks in total, meaning you have 8 content points that you need to find in order to get the maximum 8 marks, right? And then we have another 8 marks for language, right? I'm going to share with you very briefly how does an examiner, okay, mark the language section, okay, in your summary. Oh, okay, right. But before that, this is an example of a summary question that I will be using today. Okay, let's read the question together. Exercise 4. Read the article about the positive effects of singing on the body. Okay, write a summary about the benefits that singing can bring to people's physical health. Your summary should be about 100 words long and no more than 120 words long. You should use your own words as far as possible. You will receive up to 8 marks for the content of your summary and up to 8 marks for the style and accuracy of your language. So, based on this particular question, I already highlighted it in our overview just now. Okay, you know the number of words that you're supposed to write. You know the total marks that you're going to get for this particular section. Okay, another thing that is here in the question is what the question wants. What is the main idea that you need to find in the text? So it is the one in bold here. Okay, write a summary about the benefits that singing can bring to people's physical health. So the main idea that you're looking for, that you should underline or take note of, is the term benefits that singing can bring to people's physical health. So this is what the summary question looks like. Okay, as I mentioned just now, we're also going to take a look at the mark scheme for language here. Okay, I do just want to highlight that as a second language user, it is very difficult for us to get perfect score for language, right? So for a summary, what will help you to get a higher score for language is you can focus on the second bullet point. in each of this rubric. Okay, for 7 to 8 marks, 5 to 6, 3 to 4. Okay, the second point is always talking about using your own words. So for a high level usage of language in your summary, they will always, that student or that candidate will always have a very good use of own words. Okay, so for the above average level, okay, for marks 5 to 6, okay, the student has good use of own words. And then it goes to the average mark, which I think generally most of us, most of the students are within this category, that you try to, right, some attempt to use own words. Okay, meaning you try to use your own words, okay, with some reliance on language from the text. Okay, so this is a heavy part that reflects on most of our students' language marks, which is using the skill of using your own words. Okay, so don't worry. Today, okay, I will try my best to help you so that you can at least show, attempt, and at least show to the examiner that you are using your own words quite clearly in your summary. Okay, right. So we're gonna take a look at the step by step, okay, of this step-by-step technique on how we're going to approach this particular summary question. Okay, right. Number one, okay, so when you get the question, okay, you should underline the main idea from the question. Okay, when you do this, okay, you will know what sort of content points that you are looking for in the text. Okay, so understand what the question wants, okay, so that it will help you to look for the exact and correct content points. Okay, so after you have identified the main idea from the question, you will then read the given text. Okay, so reading here involves you trying to scan, okay, the text and look out for the content points. So that will fall under step number 3. You identify the relevant content points, and this is very important, you must underline the content points that you have found. Okay, why is underlining the content points that you find very important? Okay, because again, this is a step-by-step method, and in this step, your job is only to look for the content points. Students, they have a habit of, when they identify the content points, they will write the summary straight away. When they find one, let's say while you are reading the text, okay, you found one content point that answered the question. Straight away, you will jump into your summary, you will start your summary, and then you will write your summary right away. This particular method is not advisable, okay, because number one, okay, you will not have the time for you to plan properly. You will waste time trying to think of paraphrasing, and then you still need time to find the other content points. Okay, so it is best, the best step is for you to find all 8 maximum total number of content points first before you start writing your summary. Okay, right. So after you have identified them all and underlined them, okay, you need to, after that, write the summary after you have organized the content points and after you have tried to paraphrase, okay, the content points. So you write the summary in an organized manner, right? And then lastly, after you have written your full summary, you should check that your summary has included all of the content points that you found and it does not exceed the word limit. So here is where the power of underlining the content points come into play. When you want to check for your content points, you do not have to reread the whole text from start to finish again. Okay, so you should just focus on the phrases or the content points that you have underlined and check that it matches with whatever you have written in your summary. Okay, So again, step by step. Number one, focus on the question, understand what the question wants. Number two, read the whole text. Number three, you identify the content points that answer the questions. Number four, you write the summary after you have paraphrased and writing it in a cohesive manner, in an organized manner. And lastly is checking your summary and make sure that you do not exceed the number of words, which is 120 words. Okay, very simple, very straightforward. Okay, and if you really follow the techniques, inshallah, you will not miss, okay, the relevant content points, and you will be able to organize your summary in a better way. Okay, so let's take a look at how we can do some of these steps in a detailed manner. Okay, so we are moving on now to, I think this is the third step, right? After you have read the text from the summary question, you want to identify the content points. Okay, so how do we do this? Right, number one, you need to know that content points are the relevant details or information that the question wants. Okay, so they are not elaborations, they are not explanations, and they are not examples. So later on after this, I'm going to show you, okay, what are these distractions, these elaborations, these explanations that does not fall under the content points. Okay, so we're looking for the exact content points, right? So let's take a look at the example from the question. Example number one. So again, the question is, write a summary about the benefits that singing can bring to people's physical health. Okay, so the keyword, the main idea here is you're looking for benefits, okay, of singing. Okay, that can bring, benefits of singing towards people's physical health. So that is the main idea you're looking for. You're looking for content ideas that answers this particular question. Okay, so here is a paragraph, okay, from this particular question. Okay, I'm going to give you around 2 minutes, okay, to read through this paragraph, and then we'll move on to identifying the content points from this particular paragraph. Okay, so 2 minutes. Okay, we'll start from now. Okay, so in the meantime, while you are reading this, okay, if you have any, comments or question about summary that you have been wanting to ask somebody for a long time, you can always put it in the chat box, okay, and then I will try to address to it. Okay, any problems, any issues, any difficulties, okay, no matter whether it's going to be mentioned later or not, okay, you just ask now, it doesn't matter. Okay, right. So
Mr. Daniel,
okay, yep.
would it be advisable if I use a highlighter to highlight the points?
Right. So that is an excellent point there. Right, using a highlighter. Okay, I noticed that it's always a habit for students whenever they want to mark a particular main idea when they are reading notes and so on. They like to use highlighters. Right, for an IGCSE exam, you are not allowed to use a highlighter. Okay, actually it is not allowed. Okay, so highlighters are supposed to be banned from the exam hall in whatever paper, not just for English, but for all IGCSE papers that you are going to take, right? So how can you do it? How can you replace your highlighter so that it helps you to identify the content points in the text? Okay, number one, okay, I noticed that students, they like to use brackets. Okay, when they use brackets, okay, it is very simple because they are just quoting the phrase that they are finding as the content point, right? But as an additional step, when you put the bracket, you need to mark that particular bracket with a number or a letter if you want. Okay, when you mark it with a number, so you know this particular bracket is content point number 1, let's say, okay, that I have found. Okay, because if you don't put any number or anything to it, it's still going to be very difficult for your eyes to, you have to read back again the whole paragraph to find what you have marked. Okay, right. Another way is for you to underline using a pen. And I think some teachers might have also suggested that you can use like a different colored pen. For example, the text will be in black, right? So maybe you want to use your red pen, okay, to underline the keywords, okay? It's fine as long as it's something that you can see and clearly distinguish between the content points and the other, elaboration, example, or explanation. Okay, it's fine. The reason why you're not allowed to use a highlighter because it might affect the paper, and then when we send it to UK, it's going to be scanned, and then if there's a highlighter there, the scanning might not work, and then your answers might not be able to be recorded, and then it's going to affect the examiners lah looking at your paper, and then they can't mark it properly. Okay, right. So I hope that whoever has the habit of using a highlighter when you are practicing your summary, I think you should stop now, okay, and try to use just a pen, okay, to just mark your content points. Okay, right. Are there a lot of people in our session tonight that loves to use highlighters? Okay, if you are one of those people, just say I in the chat box, right? Okay, right. So I'm sure that everybody has finished. I know, I'm not sure lah. I hope that everybody has finished reading the paragraph. Okay, so let's jump into identifying the content points, where they are. Okay, right. When you are identifying the content points in the paragraph, you should look for words that are clues to help you notice that, hey, there might be something here that will be helpful for me in my summary. Okay, so what are these clues words? So usually the clues will be, the words that you find in the words that are there here in the question. So benefits that singing can bring to people's physical health. Maybe there is a mention of the word health. Maybe there is a mention of the word benefit. Maybe, singing is being repeated as an action inside that particular sentence. So these are the clues that will help you to look for the particular content point. Okay, so let's take a look at one example. Okay, here is a sentence that has a content point. Researchers at a Swedish university found that singing can relax the body as effectively as yoga. So if you notice in my slide here, I have put in some highlighted phrases, okay, and it is color coded. So the green highlighted phrase are the clues and signs that will help you identify, there might be something there. There is something there that is related to the content point that I am looking for. Okay, the one highlighted in blue are the actual content points. Okay, the one highlighted in blue are the exact content points as published in the mark scheme. Okay, right. And the last highlighted phrase are the ones in yellow, which are the elaboration or explanation or examples within that particular sentence. Okay, that might sometimes it's also a clue, sometimes it's just an elaboration to explain, okay, the content point in more detail. But okay, it is not something compulsory to have in your particular content point. So in this particular sentence, the content point is the word relax the body. Okay, how do we know that this is a content point? We know that this is a content point from the clues singing can. So we know that we are looking for, let's take a look at the question again. We're looking for benefits of singing, right? Towards people's physical health. So what does this singing activity do? It relaxes the body. So we know that this is a positive effect, it is a benefit, and it is related to physical health. Therefore, you know, as easy as it may sound, it is a content point there, right? The phrase as effectively as yoga is just an elaboration saying that singing equals to yoga. Singing and yoga helps to relax the body. Okay, but with our main focus is on singing, so therefore it is a relevant content point that you can use in your summary. Okay, let's take a look at another sentence that has a content point, right? The results showed that singing helps to make your heart beat in a more regular rhythm, right? So the one highlighted in blue is the answer, exact answer as published in the answer script. The ones highlighted in green is like a marker, a clue for you to know, okay, the content point is here. So what are the clues here? Singing helps. So we are looking for the benefit of singing. So this singing is giving another effect. So what is the effect? It makes your heart beat in a more regular rhythm, which is something positive, and it is related to your physical health. Therefore, it is accepted as an as an as a content point. Okay. If you notice, there is no, in this particular sentence, there is no elaboration or explanation to confuse you. Okay, but this might appear in, you know, sentences in between. Okay, between this second point and the first point just now, there might be, you know, more elaboration and explanation that will try to confuse you. Okay, so it's your job to identify, number one, the clues first. Okay, that will know, okay, hey, there's a benefit here, and does it relate to physical health? Okay, so it's your job to determine whether it's a relevant content point or not. So this is for content point number 2. Okay, right. In this particular paragraph also, we have another content point, and it is in this sentence. There is also evidence from other studies that with each breath, singing brings more oxygen into the body. Again, the clue is still the word singing, right? Which, you know, makes you think that, hey, this particular text is quite easy, right? And you might be right. Okay, the text is easy. Sometimes you might get lucky to get an easy summary question. Okay, but that means that maybe the other sections are a little bit difficult. So in here, the clues are always related to singing. So you know, okay, the word singing is here. Is there any benefit that, you know, that is that it provides for our physical health? So it brings more oxygen into the body. It relates to your physical health. It is something positive. It is a benefit. Therefore, it is a content point. Okay, let's take a look at the last one from this particular paragraph. Okay, in this particular sentence, what is more, when people sing frequently, they tend to find that their lung capacity increases over time. Now, between the clues and the content point here, there is filler words that will, you know, maybe is trying to make you lose focus. Maybe as you are reading this very quickly, you might miss it. But again, I assure you that if you can find the clues, okay, in this sense is talking about singing frequently. So your brain should be working and understanding that, you know, are they talking about any benefit here? So you should read the full sentence and find that, you know, it is mentioning about a benefit towards your physical health, which is your lung capacity increases over time. Okay, even though you don't really know scientifically, you know, how does singing really, you know, increase your lung capacity, and you don't understand what does lung capacity even means, but you know, right? You know that lung is a is part of your body, and it is part of your physical related to your physical attributes. And then increases over time is something positive, so you know it's a benefit. Therefore, this is a content point related to singing, the benefit of singing. Okay, right. So if we just underline or highlight in the text, okay, you will notice that it is spread out like that. Okay, and then all the other non-highlighted words are just fillers, okay, are just explanation or elaboration. Okay, if you take a look at the sentence that comes after the word lung capacity increases over time. The sentence says, perhaps it's no wonder then that people are joining choirs in their thousands and enjoying the self-confidence that comes from singing. Okay, this is a very good distractor because as I mentioned just now, you're looking for clues, right? Okay, so it says the word singing here in this particular sentence. And then you're looking for the benefit. Hey, the benefit here is that it boosts your self-confidence. But you have to stop and think. Okay, is it related to the main idea? The main idea is asking benefit related to people's physical health. So self-confidence does not really relate to your body, does not really relate to your physical health. It's more of a emotional aspect of a human being. So it's not a physical health, therefore it is not a content point. It is just trying to distract you. Okay, maybe while you're reading, you say, hey, they're singing here, right? So is there any benefit? Hey, it brings self-confidence. Okay, so maybe if some of you might, just jump the gun. Okay, just say, hey, it's a benefit, so it's a content point. So content point number 5. No, you have to stop and think and see again your main idea. What does the question want? So here, self-confidence is not a content point. Right. So we are now moving to our first activity, okay, in relation to identifying the content points, right? So what I'm going to ask you to do here is there are, okay, some content points here. Okay, at least 4 content points in this particular paragraph. So what I want you to do, this is a different paragraph from the one that we did just now. So what I want you to do is, okay, within 10 minutes, okay, you're going to read this particular paragraph, okay, and then you're going to identify, okay, what are the exact content points, word by word. Okay, so there are around 4. Okay, maybe more than 4. Okay, so if that's okay, then I'm going to start the timer, and we'll have about 5 to 10 minutes for you to before we proceed to discussing the answers to this particular activity. Okay, if you have any questions related to whatever that we have discussed just now, don't be shy to put it in the chat box, and then I will entertain you. Okay, right. So your 5 minutes starts now.
Mr. Daniel, just
Yep.
as you offered about question, we have one Iman Rahimi from
Mhm.
MRSM Baling. He or she says that do you have any tips on how to declare or differentiate the phrase is a distraction? How do
Okay.
you make sure of that?
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Hajaf, and thank you, Iman Rahimi from Baling, for that particular question. It's a good question. How do you identify whether something is a distraction or not? Right. As I mentioned previously, okay, there are clues. Okay, there are words that work as clues for you to find the content points. Okay, and from the previous paragraph just now, okay, most of the clues are the word singing, because you're looking for the benefits of singing. Therefore, whenever the word singing comes up, your brain will start to work, wonders, and then just, and will tell you that there's something there. Okay, whether it's just some filler explanation, or whether they're going to mention a particular benefit. Okay, so my advice is, whenever you want to identify whether it's a content point or a distraction, always refer back. Whenever you find a clue, always refer back to the question. What does it want actually? Okay, because the question for IGCSE summary are usually very specific. Okay, for example, for the practice that we are doing right now, is very specific. Benefits of singing. Sorry, I'll use it word by word. Uh, Benefits that singing can brings to people's physical health. So there are a few keywords here that, as I mentioned just now, that you are looking for when you are reading the text. So it's the word benefit, it's the word singing, and it's the word physical health. So all of these three clues must work together, okay, and then you know that it is the content point. So if it's not, so let's say you find something in the paragraph, but it's not related to benefit. It's talking about like a negative thing. Therefore, it's not a content point. Okay, and then you find something, but there's no mention of the word singing. Maybe it's a different activity. Maybe it's yoga, can. Maybe it's I don't know, a different physical activity that is not singing. Therefore, it's not a content point. And then you find something, but there's no relation to physical health, right? Then it is not a content point as well, because it's not related to the question. Okay, my advice, okay, whether you want to see something as a distraction or not, you refer back to the question. If it has no relation, even one part of it has no relation with the question, therefore it's definitely a distractor.
All
Okay,
right,
so
Mr. Ben.
I
Thank
hope
you.
I hope that answers your question, Iman.
Yeah, we have another one from
Mm-hmm.
Adlina Marisa, but it is not a question, it's an answer. She answers preventing back pain as her
Mm-hmm.
second point.
Second point. Okay.
Mhm.
So we're still waiting. Okay, let's give a few time. Right. Thank you for the response, Adina Marisa. Okay. I want the as you are responding. Okay. After this, we're going to discuss, the first content point that we can find from this paragraph. Okay. So I noticed that you put number 2 there. Maybe that is your um second answer. So maybe you want to put in your first answer, number 1. Okay, the first answer that you found. We're going to discuss the first one after this. Okay, so we have about another 2.5 minutes, I think. Okay, right. If there are any new questions, like what Iman Rahimi asked just now, that has been, bothering your mind in relation to summary, it's fine. You can ask me.
So far, we don't have it yet, but students are eager to share their content points with you, Mr. Daniel.
Okay, so if you are ready, okay, just share with me right now your first answer, meaning the first content point that
Mhm.
you can find from this particular paragraph. Okay, so just put number 1 and then let me know. Okay, the first one.
All right, we have one from Ashwina. She says, I'm sorry, or she or he says, creatively satisfying is as her number one point.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right. Anybody else? Let's give a few seconds.
We Adina from MRSM KUANTAN says, stomach muscles a great workout. And also supported by Ain Alina from KKB. She also says the first content point is singing gives your stomach muscles a great workout.
Okay, right.
Mhm.
Thank you for the responses. I think we can proceed. If we are getting responses, then it means that most of you have already finished reading the whole text and getting into the first um, content points, right? So let's take a look at the first one from this particular this particular paragraph. Okay, so the first content point is, okay, most of you answered it correctly. So the first content point is, as well as being creatively satisfying, it gives your stomach muscles a great workout as you need to use them to control your voice. Right. I noticed that Ashwina just now answered a different point, which is creatively satisfying. Right. Again, as I mentioned just now, okay, you have to relate it back to what the question wants. So the question, based on the question, there are three main points just now: benefit, singing, and physical health. So in terms of creatively satisfying, it does not relate to physical health, because being creative refers to, you know, your artistic skills. Okay, it's not referring to, you know, how your body works, right? So it is not considered as a content point. But the content point here is it gives your stomach muscles a great workout. Okay, you know that stomach is your body, so it's related to your physical attribute. Okay, and then it gives a great workout. It is something positive, and it here refers to the action of singing. So that is the clue there. Even though the word singing is not mentioned here, but if you refer back to the previous sentences, it is referring to the action of singing. Therefore, this is the exact, okay, key points or content points for this particular question. Okay, gives your stomach muscles a great workout. That is the benefit of singing towards your physical health. Okay, so I hope that Ashwina can, you know, rectify your mistake, okay, and be aware of the main idea, what the question wants. Okay, not just look for benefit. I agree with you, it is a benefit, right? Creatively satisfying, it is a benefit of singing, but it is not related to physical health. Right, let's take a look for the second content point. So I'll give a few seconds for people to respond. Number two, there are a few responses. Number two.
Okay, there are a few responses from students. Basically, some students just they put together their list of points, which is very proactive of them, right?
Yeah, correct.
Adlina, just I said before, she says number 2 is preventing back pain. Another one, who is this? Raghunathan from MRSM KKB. He also agrees. The second point is prevents back pain. And then Iman Rahimi from MRSM Baling shares the same answer. So as Adina from MRSM KUANTAN and Farha Sofia from KKB. They are all saying, Mr. Daniel, the second point must be preventing back pain. Please don't tell them otherwise, Mr. Daniel.
Okay, right. So I'm glad to say that these answers are correct. For the second content point in this particular paragraph is that it prevents back pain. Preventing back pain is the exact keyword for your content point. Because of the word, the clue here is, okay, singing can be helpful. So it is a positive effect, it is a benefit, and it relates to singing, and back pain is related to your physical body. Therefore, it is a content point. Right. So third content point, right? Let's wait for those who did not like list everything out. So thank you to just now Raghunathan and Adelina Marisa. Okay, both of you just, you know, listed out everything. It's fine, but let's also give chance for others to put down the third content point from this particular paragraph. Okay, right.
Right.
Okay.
While waiting, do you want what Raghunathan and Adina list also in their points?
Right. I think I can see here. Okay, so Raghunathan says quality of sleep increase. Adelina Marisa also says general quality of their sleep increases after a singing session. Wow, very long wording for that particular content point, right? So what I want is the exact word, meaning that only covers the content point. I think what Adelina was doing just now is putting in the explanation and elaboration as well. Okay, so it's not really, it's okay, but when you're listing down the content points, it's good to be very specific to what it is. So both of them are talking about quality of sleep. Adina from MRSM KUANTAN says noisy breathing problem decreases over time for number 3. Okay, right. So for the third content point, okay, I think for Raghunathan and Adelina just now, I think you skipped this one, which Adina mentioned, which is snoring or noisy breathing problem decreases. So this is a physical benefit that singing does to these singers. Okay, right. So the clue here is not technically saying the word singing, the action of singing, but the clue here is the word singers. Singers report, okay, they are snoring, okay, the noisy breathing problem that some people suffer from when they sleep decreases over time. So so when you see the word singers, you know that the work that they do is singing. So it is indirectly saying that when you do singing, your snoring is decreased. Okay, decreases. Right? I want you to take note on this particular sentence. Okay, if you see that after the word snoring, there is a dash and then there is an explanation there. So that explanation is actually a definition of the word snoring. Okay, so in your content point, you can use either one. You can use either the term snoring or you can use the term noisy breathing problem. Okay, whereas the other words in that particular phrase are just the explanation of what snoring is. Sorry, excuse me, right? So the key word is that the positive physical health benefit that they can get from singing is that their snoring decreases, right? Thank you to, I think just now was a few people, right, got it correct. Okay, and then most of you jump straight to the next content point number 4, which is quality of their sleep improves, okay, after a singing session. So the clue is after a singing session, right? So some of you might be thinking, why is sleeping related to physical health, right? Generally, when you are sleeping, it means you are resting your body. It is an action that you do related to how healthy you are physically. Okay, if you are not physically healthy, you won't sleep well. Okay, I'm sure that some of us who have experienced bad flu or a bad fever, you are not able to sleep well, right? So it relates to the physical health. Therefore, it is a content point for this particular topic, right? Okay, so I'm just going to show you all the content points. There is a content point number 5, which is you are less likely to get ill, meaning related to sickness. How well your body protects itself from getting ill. Okay, right. So here are the content points in this particular paragraph. Okay, right. Okay, so how many content points altogether? If we combine the content points from the first paragraph just now, from my example, with the content points from the activity just now, okay, we have a total of 9 content points. Okay, so you might be thinking, how come we have 9 content points in total in the text, but we only need 8? Okay, you will be surprised that actually, okay, there are some paragraphs that I did not share. The total content points for this particular question is 10. And here they are. Here are the benefits of singing towards people's physical health. Okay, right. So you might be thinking, I need only 8. So why do we need to list out all 10? Okay, I'm going to tell you why now. Okay, the reason why you need to identify all the relevant content points is so that you have a certain backup. Okay, in an IGCSE question for summary, okay, the content points that they will provide will usually be more than what you need. So if you need 8, sometimes they will provide either 9 or 10 content points in total from that particular text. The reason is because, as some of you have showed just now, you tend to skip a certain content point because you thought it was not related to what the question wants. So when you identify all 10, okay, right, it means that you are very good and you have a certain backup. Okay, if let's say one of your content point is wrong, okay, right, there is so the reason why they put 10 is also because of some students, having the tendency to skip, okay, certain content points when they are reading because either they were reading too fast or they dismiss that particular content point and just move on to the next thing that they find. Okay, so when you get your summary questions next time, okay, make sure that do not be satisfied with just the bare minimum. Not the bare minimum, meaning don't be satisfied with only 8, which is what you need, right? You need to try to find at least one more, okay, as a backup for your content points. Okay, sometimes when you are writing your summary, okay, your number of words might be less than 100. Okay, so when you have this extra content point, you can put it in your summary and it will not affect your number of the number of words in your summary, and you will not exceed 120 in your summary writing. Okay, so here are the 10 content points from this particular question. Okay, why am I listing all of these content points? Because after you have identified the content points, we move on to the next step, which is paraphrasing. Okay, paraphrasing the content points, right? So why is paraphrasing important? Okay, I'm sure that many of you would agree with one of the responses just now, saying that paraphrasing is a challenging aspect in writing a summary. But why is it so important? Okay, there are 2 reasons. Number 1, for the summary question, okay, you will get a higher mark in language. That is our aim. Okay, I always ask my students, okay, you find it is always the easy part is to find the content points, meaning you find the relevant points to answer that particular question. It is difficult to get a higher mark in language because you are not able to paraphrase well. And most of the time, I would advise them to just, copy and paste the content point, because there is a risk of when you paraphrase, you might change the meaning of the content point and you lose in both. You lose marks in the language, you lose marks in the content section. Okay, so there is a risk there. But it is always important, if you are aiming to score higher in your exam, to have this particular skill. So I'm going to teach you, just show you a simple way to at least show that you are trying to paraphrase your content point. Okay. The second reason why paraphrasing is important is you want to train yourself, to have different ways to construct a sentence, which you can apply, not just in your summary, you can apply in your essays as well. Okay, right. So how do you paraphrase a content point? Number 1, okay, there are 3 ways here. Number 1, you can change, okay, the sentence structure. What does it mean by changing the sentence structure? As you know, there are technically two different types of sentences, whether the sentence is an active sentence or the sentence is a passive sentence. So in the text, if the content point is written as an active sentence, meaning the in simple terms, the person doing the action is in front. So the action is being done to something. Okay, so it is an active sentence. So you just switch the positions around. Okay, and the person receiving the action is in front of the sentence. Okay, or if the text is already in a passive sentence, you can always just change it into the simple active sentence. Okay, the most common sentence is the active sentence. The second way for you to paraphrase a content point is by replacing words or phrases with a synonym. I think this is a popular technique that many students like to do, because whenever they hear the word paraphrasing, they associate it with the term synonyms. They want to replace a particular word or a particular phrase in a sentence into something else. This is quite risky, because sometimes when you replace words with something else, you might change the meaning. Okay, it will happen. It can happen when you are changing the sentence structure as well, but it is more likely to happen when you use synonyms. Okay, right. The third way is, just changing the grammatical structure. Maybe, your verbs, you change the form of your verbs. Okay, whether it's you can add ing and then it becomes a past participle and whatnot. Okay, so that is considered as, you attempting to paraphrase your content points as well. So let's take a look again, okay, at all the 10 content points. Okay, and I'm going to show some examples on how you can change or paraphrase, okay, so some of these content points into an acceptable sentence or phrase to be used in your summary. So I'm going to give about 4 examples first before we move on to the next activity, where you will try to paraphrase it on your own. Example number 1, let's take a look at the first content point, which is relax the body. Okay, so here, relax the body. Where is the verb? The verb is the word relax, an action. Okay, so how do you change the structure? Since the verb is at the front, you can try to move the verb to the back of the sentence. So in this example, I move the word relax to the back, and the sentence becomes make the body relax. So you have to add vocab here so that the sentence makes sense, or else if you just say the body relaxed only, it doesn't make sense, right? So again, when you're changing the structure, it is always important for you to remember that you need to make sense, right? So when I move the word relax to the back, I need to change the grammatical structure as well, so it becomes make the body relax. Okay, so how do you check? How do you check when you change the structure? How do you check whether it's correct or not? So you just compare. You compare the original content point from the text with the word or sentence that you made. Okay, you compare. When you read your own word or your own sentence, and the meaning, when you read it and then you read the content point, the meaning is the same. Therefore, you can be at least 90% sure that the structure that you change is correct. Okay, right. Another way, okay, as I mentioned just now, is by using synonyms. You change the words that you use, okay, the words in the content point to something that is similar in meaning, right? So in this case, I change the word relax into the word calm. So generally, technically, calm and relax are usually used together, okay, in a sentence. So calm the body is can be accepted as an attempt to paraphrase the particular content point. Okay, right. Let's take a look at the second example. Okay, this is from the third content point. Okay, brings more oxygen into the body. So again, take a look at the verb. Okay, where is the verb? The action. The verb is the word brings. So I want to move this verb, okay, into another position. Okay, so the structure, okay, I change the structure and the content point becomes more oxygen will be brought into the body. So it's different. The structure, the meaning is the same, right? Oxygen is still brought into the body, brings more oxygen into the body. Okay, the meaning is still the same. When you compare these two structure, hey, the meaning is the same. Therefore, I am showing my attempt to paraphrase this particular content point. Right. Or you can use synonyms. Okay, in this particular example, I change the word more into additional. So it becomes brings additional oxygen into the body. Okay, right. On this particular example, I would also like to highlight that when you are attempting to paraphrase, when you are attempting to use your own words, you have to be careful not to make changes to keywords that sometimes is very difficult for you to change, okay, or move. Okay, for example, in this particular content point, the word that is key here is the word oxygen, right? So I think everybody would agree it's very difficult for you to use a synonym to replace oxygen, okay? As well as, you know, trying to change its form into something else. So sometimes certain keywords, whenever you're paraphrasing, don't get frustrated if there are certain words that you cannot change, or you cannot change the structure, or you cannot change it into a different word. Sometimes it's just, it must exist that way so that the meaning does not change. So don't get frustrated. Try to find other ways for you to paraphrase. Okay, maybe through the filler words or whatever in the particular content point. Okay, right. I promised 4 examples, right? So this is example number 3 for content point number 4. Lung capacity increases over time. Okay, so when I change the structure, okay, I just move the word capacity to the front, okay, because capacity capacity in this particular sentence is the adjective. Okay, so I make it into a noun and it becomes the capacity of the lung increases over time. So I change the sentence structure there. And or, okay, I just change the word increases into something else. Okay, so it becomes lung capacity becomes more over time. Okay, for you to be able to use synonyms well, of course, you need to build a bigger vocab bank. You need to read more. Okay, you need to sometimes some common words you need to refer to the thesaurus, the dictionary. There's no other way. If you really wish to use other words, or else it's going to be very difficult for you to try and use synonyms to paraphrase your content point. Okay, one more example. Okay, preventing back pain, right? So again, I just move the verb. Look at the verb. The verb is preventing, okay, which is an active sentence, right? And then I change it into a passive sentence. Back pain can be prevented. Meaning is still the same, right? Or I use a synonym and says, change the word preventing. Prevent is the almost same meaning as avoid. So it becomes avoiding back pain, right? So this is paraphrasing the content points only. So when you are structuring your sentences later for your summary, you use this paraphrase form rather than just copying and paste the content point into your summary. Okay, so let's move on to our next activity in which you will try to paraphrase yourself now. So for the first one, I would like you to paraphrase this particular content point, which is content point number 9. the point is less likely to get ill. So try and use both of the method. Number one, you either change the structure of the sentence, or B, you try to use synonyms to replace some of the words in this content point to something else. Okay, so for this one, I'll give you about 3 minutes, okay, to try and paraphrase. Okay, if you have your response for A and B, just mention it in our chat box. So your 3 minutes starts now.
Mr. Daniel, we
Yep.
have a very interesting response from Iman Rahimi. As you can see in the chat box, he is giving us very helpful acronym from your explanation just now, to paraphrase, right? So he is suggesting CREAM. C for change the sentence structure, R for remove, E for exchange, A for add, and M for move. I think this is maybe his own way of remembering the strategies.
Right. I think this is a very creative way for you to remember on the techniques, right? So thank you, Iman, for this acronym. So CREAM reads as cream, right? So it's very interesting that these are actually the methods of paraphrasing if you go into detail word by word. So it's either you change a word, you remove a word, you exchange a word with something else, you add more words into your content points, or you move the words around until it becomes a different structure. So this is more detail if you are trying to make changes at the word level. So this is very good. So thank you, Iman Rahimi, for sharing it with the rest of the crowd. And hopefully this can be as a reminder lah for everyone when you are attempting to paraphrase your summary question. Okay, very good.
We have one response from Ashwina also. She is paraphrasing, less likely to get ill. She says, reduce the likelihood of falling sick.
Okay, reduce the likelihood of falling sick. Okay, thank you, Ashwina. Do we have any other responses? Okay, for this particular paraphrasing skill activity?
Not yet. We are still waiting from our amazing audience. Raghunathan says, you will get ill less likely for A, and for B, get ill rarely.
Okay, right. So thank you for those responses. Okay, let's give a few more seconds. Okay, so don't be when you are trying to paraphrase, don't be scared to test it out first. Meaning you get a pencil, you try to write the paraphrase point first, and then you see it, and then you compare it with the original content point. As long as it does not change the meaning of your content point, I'm sure it's going to be fine. Sometimes different people have different way, and then there's no one right way of paraphrasing a particular content point. Right. Okay, I think that should be enough time. Okay. Right. Let's take a look at what I did. Okay. So by changing the structure, okay, I move the word less likely to the back. Okay, to say that getting ill will become less likely. So in this sense, you need to add a few more vocab so that the sentence makes sense when you are paraphrasing this particular content point, right? And then in terms of using the synonyms, I just said, okay, less likely to become sick. I just change the word ill, and then it becomes the word sick. Okay, but I think for Ashwina's reduce the likelihood of falling sick. I think that's a good one. It's a combination of changing the structure as well as replacing the word with a synonym. Okay. Raghunathan's response is also acceptable. Okay, you will get ill less likely. I think the grammar needs a little bit work there. Okay, and then get ill rarely, you change the word less likely into rarely. So which is correct as well for this one. Uh, we have Azmat from Langkawi saying less prone to sickness, which is good. Less prone is a very uncommon word. Okay, I think it will get a merit for when you are using it in your summary. Okay, which is very good, right? And sickness lah, illness, ill, getting ill is the same meaning as getting sick, right? So thank you for that. Again, I would like to also highlight that, you know, sometimes it's not just you focus on just one way of paraphrasing. You can mix it together. You can use synonyms and you can change the structure of the particular content point, right? Okay, let's do one more. Let's do one more for this content point number 10, okay, which is improve your memory. So again, A for changing the structure and then B for using the synonyms, right? So I'll give you around 2 minutes to try and do this.
Mr. Daniel, there's something that has always been bugging my mind. How much time do you think we should spend on this section, this summary section?
Okay, right. That's a very good question. So thank you, Miss Haja. As a reminder for everybody, how many minutes should you spend on this particular question? My advice to students is you need to at least take 20 minutes of the exam time to complete your summary question. Okay. This includes from start to finish, including the checking of your summary. Okay. Because I believe that for the first three exercises, when you are just looking for the answers in the text, it's just a matter of copying and paste. So you should spend some more time in this summary section for you to paraphrase, number one, and then to organize your summary, your content points into words to make it a meaningful paragraph. Okay, so 20 minutes for exercise 4, and then for exercise 1 to 3, you should spend about 40 minutes in total for that particular section, because I believe for both of the essays, exercise 5 and exercise 6, you need equal time, half an hour each, for you to draft or plan your essays and then check your essays. So summary lebih sikit, a little bit more than the other reading comprehension sections. Okay, right. Okay, so we have responses.
We have one from Raghunathan. And then another one from Farha Sophia from KKB.
Okay, right. I'm reading them right now.
All right.
Okay, Raghunathan says for A, memory power will improve. Okay, he add the word power there. Or improve your cognitive skills. Okay, right. Farha Sophia says your memory will be improved. Okay, moving the word improve to the back. And then enhance your memory ability, meaning changing the word improve to enhance. Okay, right. So I think these are great responses. I'm just a little bit concerned, like it's good that you use the word cognitive skills, but if this were like a direct meaning or translation, cognitive skills is more on thinking skills. So as an examiner, maybe the examiner needs to think, you know, is thinking skills the same as memory. So you know, some examiners might accept it, some examiners might, you know, dismiss it because uh, it is not like, you know, similar to memory. But for me, I think cognitive skills is related to memory because it refers to your brain and your thinking ability. Okay. For Farha Sophia's response, so in the synonym section, the the use of the word enhance is good there. Okay, so it means it shows improvement. Right, so let's take a look at, you know, my way. Okay, so I just move the word improve, the verb, for changing the structure. Your memory can be improved. And for synonyms, okay, I am just changing the word improve to positive development, okay, to your memory. Okay, right. So we're done. Oh, not quite done. Okay, exclamation mark here, right? I think I have mentioned this before just now in my when I started talking about paraphrasing. So make sure when you attempt to paraphrase, it does not change the meaning of the content point. This is very important because if you attempt to paraphrase, it changes meaning. You will lose marks in both parts, meaning you lose mark in your content, you lose mark in your language. Okay, so I'll give you an example of how it does not work. Okay, when you change or when you try to paraphrase, it gives a different meaning, and then it will, your content point will get dismissed. So for content point number 9, less likely to get ill. Okay, student says you will not get ill. So less likely and will not does not really mean the same, okay? Because will not meaning zero chance, right, for you to get ill, but less likely meaning, you know, you might still get sick, but not as common as if you don't do singing, for example. Okay, so it's different, very different. Will not is a very extreme, meaning 0% at all, that you will, it will not happen, right? But less likely means it might happen, but not common, right? So be careful when you are trying to use synonyms for it. Okay, right. So we are done with paraphrasing step. Okay, and now we go into how you should start your summary, how you're going to write your summary. So how do you start your summary? Okay, again, I've mentioned this just now. So when you are starting your summary, you use the topic sentence from the question as your starting sentence. Okay, so from the question, write a summary about the benefits that singing can bring to people's physical health. So the topic sentence is the main idea there. So you just say, you just start straight away your summary by saying there are many benefits singing can bring to people's physical health. Okay, this is very different than when you are writing essays. There is no need for a very detailed, for example, a very, when you're writing an essay, you need a proper introduction to, you know, ease people into what you are trying to write in your essay. But in a summary, you should go straight away to the point, to the content points, to answering the question, because you have very limited words and there is no need for you to explain or elaborate or give definition. Okay, and just straight away go into the content point. So start with whatever the question is asking you. So the question is asking about benefits of singing. So in your starting sentence, you just write, there are many benefits singing can bring to people's physical health. Right. So after we have started the summary, so you continue on the summary by organizing your content points. So how do we organize and write the content points in your summary? Okay, there is one method, which is you use suitable linkers or sequence connectors when listing out your content points. Now in this table, I have put down two different styles of using linkers and sequence connectors. For style number 1, it is generally using a numbering sequence. So you list down your content points according to a numbering sequence. So firstly, what is your first content point? Secondly, what is your second content point? Thirdly, what is your third content point, right? But if you just use this numbering sequence, your summary will tend to get a little bit monotonous. Everything firstly, secondly, thirdly, fourthly, fifthly, and then lastly. So it will get a little bit monotonous. Okay. You can mix and match with style number 2, meaning you're using some general sequence connectors to show an additional or continuance of a content, right? So maybe you want to say, using the topic sentence again, one of the benefits of singing towards people's physical health is apa? Okay, your first content point. After that, singing can also your next content point, right? And then finally, what is your last content point? Okay, so there are two different styles. If you are not confident, if you are not sure what sequence connectors to use in your summary, my advice, just use style number 1. It's perfectly fine. But your language mark might not be very high. Okay, but you will avoid making mistakes by using the wrong sequence connectors that you're not confident of. So you just sequence it firstly, secondly, thirdly, and then so on. Okay, but if you're a little bit more confident, okay, you can try to mix and match between style 1 and style number 2. Okay, right. So again, here are the content points, the 10 content points just now. So I'm going to use content point 1 until content point number 4, okay, and make a sentence out of it. Okay, so here is an example, okay, of how I constructed sentences using the content points and how I use the different linkers or sequence connectors to make the flow of my content points more cohesive, okay, which have a general good flow of moving from one content point to the next one. Okay, so let's take a look at one by one. The first content point is relax the body. Okay, and if you notice here, uh, if you notice here, I have already paraphrased, okay, the content point. So firstly, singing can make your body relax. Okay. Secondly, it allows your heartbeat in a more consistent rhythm. Okay. Other than that, more oxygen will be brought into the body. And then I continue to the last fourth content point. Another benefit of singing is that it can make the lung capacity becomes more over time. So the total number of words for these 4 sentences are already 45. Okay, right. Since we are a little bit rushed on time, okay, I actually have prepared like an activity for you to do here. Okay, for these content points for you to come up with the sentences. So I'm just going to show you straight away to the examples, okay, of how you can continue constructing your sentences for your summary. So here, okay, I just straight away continue. Furthermore, singing can provide an amazing workout for your stomach muscles. Next, singing also helps in avoiding back pain as well as decreasing noisy breathing problems. If you notice here, I have combined these 2 content points into one sentence, which is fine. You can use conjunctions to combine 2 content points as long as it is under the same main idea. So this is still under the same idea, still talking about the benefits of singing to physical health. Therefore, you can combine it and make it into one sentence. When you try to mix and match the style of your writing, that's when your language skills are being tested, and then the examiner will notice, this candidate has a wide range of mastery in making sentences. Okay, right. And then finally, for the 8th point, quality of sleep becomes better by singing. Right, if you notice in my sentences here, I always put the word singing, okay, as a way for me to go back to the question. Meaning, what are we talking about here? So that it doesn't lose track. If we just put the content point in the sentence, sometimes the meaning is not delivered fully. Okay, so what is this student trying to tell us about preventing back pain? So you relate it back to the question. Add, some words from the question again. So next, singing also helps in avoiding back pain, so that the reader can say, okay, avoiding back pain here is related to the singing activity. So total number of words here is 34. So combined with my previous one, 45 words. So we have about 79 words, okay, for this particular 8 content points. So we have about another 20 words to reach 100. Okay, remember we have 10 content points just now. So if you haven't reached 100 words yet, add the content points into your summary, and then hopefully everything will be accepted, and you still get the maximum number of marks for content. Okay, right. Now, we move on to the last part of my presentation today, which is the two-part summary question. Okay, so if you have any questions in relation to the techniques just now, so you can just, straight away ask in the chat box while I go through very quickly what is two-part summary all about. Okay, right. So the difference between the two-part summary and the one-part summary is how you write up the summary, how you construct the sentences, how you write the full summary. Okay. When it comes to finding the content points, when it comes to paraphrasing, the skill requirement is still the same. There is no change in that. But when you are writing the summary, okay, the technique is a little bit different. The arrangement is different. Okay, right. So here is an example of a two-part summary question. Okay, read the article about video gaming and the Olympic Games. Write a summary about the arguments for and against including video gaming in the Olympic Games. So your summary should be about 100 words long and no more than 120 words long. You should use your own words as far as possible. Now let's focus on the question. Whenever it is a two-part summary question, there will always be that conjunction, the word and, A and D, in capital and in bold, right? So this is to show you that there are two main ideas that you should be looking for when you are looking for the content point in the text. So what are the content points that you should be looking for in this particular question? What are the two main ideas? Okay, number one, okay, you should be looking for. So the two main ideas you need to consider. Number one are points about arguments for including video gaming in the Olympic Games. So at least 4 for this. And then you need to find points about arguments against including video gaming in the Olympic Games. For me, I think this question is a little bit difficult because you need to have the particular understanding. Okay, what does arguments for means? What does arguments against means? So arguments for meaning whether you the points to agree that we should include video gaming in Olympic Games, while argument against means that the points that disagree to include video gaming in the Olympic Games. So this is a little bit harder. As I mentioned just now, sometimes you might get an easy summary, sometimes you might get a difficult summary. It all comes down to how you understand what the question wants. So this might be a little bit tricky, especially if you don't understand the words arguments for and arguments against. What does it mean? Okay, right. So how do you, write the two-part summary? So the other technique is still the same. Finding the content point, the technique is the same. You tengok the main idea, what does it want? You look for it in the text, you compare it, you look for clues, okay? But how do we write it? There are two ways, okay? The first method is you write it in one paragraph, okay? you write in one paragraph, but you have to separate the two parts clearly. Meaning, the first top half of your summary should be talking about the first part of the question, which is arguments for. Okay, and then the bottom half of the summary should be the second part of the question, which is argument against, right? So you write everything in one paragraph, but clearly separated. Content points for part one on the top, content points for part two at the bottom. Okay, I prefer if you were to write it in two paragraphs so that it is clear that your first paragraph is something different than your second paragraph. Okay, so your first paragraph will talk about the first part of the question, and then your second paragraph will talk about the second part of the question. Why is this an advisable method? This is so that, you know, if you find any other extra content points, you can easily just insert it at the bottom of that particular paragraph. Okay, you don't have to like, oh no, I have another point for part one, so I have to, you know, cancel my other section so that I can just insert it there. Okay, so you write it into paragraph. Writing it into paragraph is the best way when you are approaching the two-part summary, and then you won't be confused as well. Okay, you won't be confused whether this content point goes into which part. Okay, right. So how do we start? Again, the same question is always how to start the summary. So when you are writing in two paragraphs, okay, when you are writing two parts, there should be two different starting point. Okay, there should be two different starting point, and you need to begin each part with the appropriate topic sentence. So here is, okay, the difference between paragraph 1, which is on the left side of the screen, okay, and then what it looks like for paragraph 2 on the right side of the screen. Okay, right. So how do we start? So just use the topic sentence. So for first paragraph, you're talking about the first part, which is arguments for. So same sentence structure. Tadi, for our singing question just now, we just say, you know, there are some benefits that singing gives to people's physical health. So here, same structure. There are some arguments for including video gaming in the Olympic Games. I just take whatever word from the question and just put it in my starting sentence for the first paragraph for part 1. And then take a look what part 2 wants. So part 2 wants arguments against. So you just continue. Okay, now let's look at some arguments against including video gaming in the Olympic Games. I'm just taking the second part in the question, putting it into a sentence to show a flow. Okay, now we're moving on to another part of the summary. Okay, when you are arranging the content points, okay, for the first paragraph, okay, you start talking about the 4 points, but when you are talking about the content points for the second part, you have to restart again because you're talking about an entirely different idea. So cannot lah if you use the numbering sequence style 1 just now. So for your first paragraph, you use firstly, secondly, thirdly, and then it must be lastly or finally. Because when you move to the second part, you're going to start again. Firstly, secondly, thirdly, and finally. Because these two parts, the content point is not the same. They cannot interchange. If it's just one part, it's easy. You just list it out in any particular order. But for this one, you need to take a look at the content point and see it falls under which category. It falls under which main idea. Okay, so in this particular question, whether it falls under for including arguments for or argument against. Okay, right. It tends to get a little bit confusing, but when you are practicing your summary and listing out the content points and putting it into sentences like this, an example that I'm giving you here right now, you will see clearly that, you know, it's very easy to separate it, especially when you're writing in 2 separate paragraphs. Okay, right. Okay, right. So we are at the end, okay, of my presentation. So is there any question before I move on to my last slide? Okay, right. So I think there are no questions for now. Okay, so let's just go to my last slide, which is some tips and tricks. Last tips and tricks that I would like to remind you, and some of them I might have mentioned throughout my presentation just now. So number one, okay, you can combine two content points into one sentence, even if it is, especially if it is from the same main idea. So you use conjunctions like and, okay, as well as. Right. Number two, avoid listing all the content points in one go like a shopping list. Like I mentioned just now, you need to use the topic sentence from the question to give a meaningful feeling, okay, to your sentence, okay, and help you organize it into a better manner. So don't just say, firstly, prevent back pain. Secondly, less likely to get ill. Thirdly, improve memory. If you write it like that, it will sound very robotic and there's no life to your summary. So you need to include the topic sentence so that you can organize, okay, or it becomes a better looking summary. Okay, number three, okay, I did not mention this. You should always count the number of words and then put it at the bottom of your summary as a reminder. So if you notice that, hey, I wrote 121 words, then there must be something that you must cut in your summary so that it does not exceed the number of words written. Okay, and then my tip number four, maximize the number of words in your summary, meaning you should reach the average of 100 words in your summary. Don't be satisfied with a short summary, even though you already have all of the 8 content points. I think if you are confident that you have all 8, okay, you should add one more just to be safe. And then if it's still not reaching 100, then you can add a little bit of, elaboration or filler to make it, to make the summary looks a little bit more realistic. Okay, right. So before I end my slide, okay, number one, I would like to remind you that there is a feedback form that you need to fill in. The link is already in the chat box. Okay, so please click the link after this and then fill in the feedback form. Okay, number two, okay, please follow the advice that your teachers have given you. Okay, and whatever new techniques that you have picked up today, okay, apply it in your exams. I think some schools are having exam next week before the mock IG, and then you apply it in your mock, and then you apply it in your real IGCSE exam. Because okay, the teachers there is a reason why your teachers are giving such um, strategies for you to use to make your life easier whenever you are answering a particular question. Okay, so with that, thank you very much. Okay, here is my email if you need to contact me and have any questions or comments about my presentation. And then I will leave it at that. Good luck in your next exams. Okay, and hopefully you can improve, especially on this summary section. So thank you very much, and I will pass it back to the moderator. Thank you. Sorry, Miss Haja, you're mute.
Thank you so much, Mr. Daniel, for sharing with us all the useful summary writing tips. I hope we would be able to apply and practice the strategies in school later. Please note that we have shared the link to the feedback form in the chat box. Don't forget to fill it in as your feedback is precious to us. In the interest of time, we may not be able to answer all your questions, but don't worry, you can definitely ask your English teachers or you can email Mr. Daniel. Thanks again to the English team from the Secondary Education Division of MARA. Once again, don't forget to fill in the feedback form. Thank you for being an amazing audience, everyone. With that, have a good weekend. Thank you.